Good afternoon, everyone. Wekiva High School welcomes you to Mustang Field for varsity baseball competition. Please welcome our guests from Colonial High School. They are the Grenadiers. And they'll be taking on your Wekiva High School Mustangs. Let's meet the teams, beginning with our guests from Colonial, and starting with their leadoff hitter, shortstop number 1, Joel Beaton. Batting second for the Grenadiers, center fielder number 10, Joan Rascat. Third in the lineup for the Grenadiers is third baseman number 2, Felix Castillo. The cleanup hitter for Colonial is right fielder number 23, Jomar Acosta. In the 5-hole is first baseman number 46, Jesus Almaguer. Batting sixth is second baseman number 17, Carlos Pina. In the 7-hole, designated hitter number 42, Darwin Jimenez. Eighth in the lineup for the Grenadiers, and behind the plate at the bottom of each inning, number 9, Justin Rosa. And finally, for Colonial, batting ninth is left fielder number 20, Steven Cruz. The starting pitcher for today for the Grenadiers and fielding for Jimenez is number 6, Carlos Mancebo. And the Grenadiers are managed by Coach Louis Trinidad. And now, let's meet the starting lineup for your Wekiva High School Mustangs. Starting with their leadoff hitter, second baseman, number 9, Darrell Martinez. Second in the lineup for the Mustangs, shortstop, number 4, Brady Rennert. Batting third for Wekiva, third baseman, number 8, Jazion Vigil. The cleanup hitter for the Mustangs is first baseman, number 18, Charles Neal. In the 5-hole and on the pitcher's mound to start today's game, number 15, Sean John. Batting sixth for the Mustangs, right fielder, number 13, Gabriel Prochet. Seventh in the lineup for the Mustangs, and behind the plate at the top of each inning, number 3, Cody Bowen. Eighth in the lineup for the Mustangs is left fielder number 16, Nathan Fritchley. And finally for the Mustangs, batting ninth, center fielder number 1, Noah James. And the Mustangs are managed by head coach Brian Tatai and assistant coach Sean Irons. And now, we invite you to please stand and remove your hats as we honor America with the singing of our national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' rattler, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Once again, welcome to Mustang Field. We'd like to welcome you whether you are here in the ballpark or joining us on our live stream. If you are here in the ballpark and you just joined us, if you have friends and family back on the Colonial side of town, elsewhere in Apopka, or anywhere in the world, and they would like to join us virtually for this afternoon's game, we invite you to send them the link right now. It's easy to remember. If you're on NFHS Network, which is, of course, the official online partner of the FHSAA, we broadcast there. That's NFHSnetwork.com or the NFHS Network app on your favorite computer or mobile device, and just search for either Wekiva or Colonial. It comes right up. Or if you are not a member of NFHSnetwork.com, that's okay. We have a completely free option for you as well. Most everybody has heard of YouTube these days. In fact, you might have that app installed on your smart TV at home. So just open up that YouTube app on your computer, smart TV, or mobile device, search Wekiva Sports, and that should come right up. And we want to welcome those of you who have done just that. Welcome to Mustang Field, where we are getting ready to go here between the Mustangs and the Grenadiers. It is senior night here at Mustang Field, or senior day, I suppose, as the sun has not yet gone down here in daylight savings time. And it is not, as is tradition, the very last home game of the season. It is often a safety net that coaches use, and I completely understand. When you play outdoor sports that are subject to the weather, you don't necessarily want to put senior night on the very last possible date that it could be, because then if it gets rained out, you could be in a pickle. So we are actually in the second to last week of regular season games here in season 18, and we just congratulated and bade farewell to our senior class of 2025. If you missed that, it is on its own separate live stream, which you can find on our channel, Wekiva Sports. Meanwhile, though, my name is Mark Barchi, the voice of the Mustangs and Sports Information Director here at Wekiva High School. I am joined, as always, by Neil Fisher, longtime Apopka sports journalist. And we are ready to go with the call of today's game versus the Grenadiers. And as we enter the top of the first inning, the leadoff hitter for Colonial once again is shortstop number 1, Joel Beaton. And Neil, the Mustangs looking for some momentum as they start to think about the postseason.
Yeah, and as always, Mark, the dulcet tones of your voice ringing out for our national anthem, a job well done. And to your point, Mark, actually both these teams looking for some momentum, both under 500. Got some work to do, a couple more games remaining. Wekiva at 6-14, Colonial at 7-14, as that's ball 1 to Beaton. And we are at Mustang Field, right next to the 429 in southeast Apopka, as there's some chin music. And that'll take the count to 2-0 here in the first inning. First pitcher, actually. First batter, excuse me. And on the mound for Wekiva, as there's strike 1, the 2-1 count, is Sean John. The senior, 6 feet exactly, as he delivers that ball smacked over to the shortstop. That's Reinert. Scoops it up. Long throw, and a runner will be at first. Not the way you want to start the game if you're Wekiva. E6.
Beaton is safe at first on the Mustang error. Next at the plate for Colonial, center fielder, number 10, Joan Rosquette.
So Rosquette steps in, runner at first base, still in the first inning. And as I mentioned, John on the mound. This is only his second, actually fourth appearance, as that'll take the count to 0-1. And his second start. He's given up 2 hits, 9 runs, 7 of which are earned, 2 walks and no strikeouts. Still looking for that first strikeout. So certainly we're at that point of the season, Mark, where the pitching rotation gets very thin, and John gets the call tonight, and certainly that'll help his cause, as Rosquette unable to catch up with that slow curveball on the outside. But runner at second base now as Beaton made it down without a throw. 0-2 count. The delivery from John, and that's going to be lifted in the infield. John coming off the mound to scoop it up, and 1 out.
John with the infield fly. And that will put 1 away for the Grenadiers. Next at the plate, third baseman, number 2, Felix Castillo.
So Rosquet unable to really get any muscle underneath that. It's exactly what John and the Mustangs needed. Wekiva. And we now have a runner at second with 1 out as Castillo, the third baseman, steps in and make that runner at third base as that ball gets by Bowen behind the plate. So definitely a scoring threat here in the first inning. A lot easier to get that runner in from third than second, even with 1 out. Your defensive lineup, as I just mentioned, Bowen behind the plate, Neal at first, Martinez at second. In the hole is Reinert, and on the hot corner is Vigil, as the count now goes 2-0. And your outfield left to right, Fritchley, James, and Prochet. As Mark mentioned, tonight is senior night. How many seniors? That'll cut the count in half at 2-1. Runner at third base. 7 seniors on this year's squad for Wekiva. And to reiterate, as Mark said during the ceremony, we wish them the best of luck moving forward as the count goes 3-1. John still looking to find that rhythm. Certainly looks like a pitcher who's been used sparingly on the mound. As a runner at third. And this should help. Ball lifted to shortstop. Reiner tracks back. And that's 2 down now with the runner at third.
Runner makes the fly catch at short. 2 away now for the Grenadiers. Next at the plate for Colonial, right fielder, number 23, Chamar Acosta.
So Acosta, the right fielder. And actually, excuse me, made a mistake. Colonial 7-12. Gave them a couple more losses than they've suffered. Still, though, the point is both these teams needing to get some victories. They have a couple more opportunities, and that certainly will not be the way that Wekiva wants to start off this game. 1-0 lead for Colonial as Beaton crosses home plate.
Beaton comes home on the wild pitch to put 1 run on the board for the Grenadiers.
So definitely an unearned run. Wekiva should have been out of this inning. More specifically, John should have been out of the inning. Beaton reaching base on the throwing error by Reinert. Did a nice job of scooping up the ball. Hard hit to him as the count now 2-0. But then threw wildly, inaccurately over to first. And that allowed Beaton to reach base. He stole second and then third and just came home on that wild pitch. 1-1, 2-1 count from John. So it's been an up and down first half of an inning for Wekiva and John as they are now 1 strike away with the 1-2 count from getting out with only giving up 1 run and trailing 1-0 in their first at bat. Excuse me, it's actually a 2-2 count. John gets the sign, the delivery, trying to get Acosta to be a little too eager there on that curveball. Acosta having none of it, and we go 3-2. Base is empty now with 2 outs. And that'll be ball 4. So an opportunity to get out of this inning with only 1 run goes by the wayside.
Acosta walks to first. Next to the plate, first baseman, number 46, Jesus Almaguer.
And Almaguero will step in. Runner at first with 2 outs. 1-0 lead for Colonial, taking advantage of an error on the very first batter, Beaton. Ball lifted high, right behind second base, being tracked there by Martinez, unable to get underneath it properly. And the inning will continue. So the second error in the top
Almaguer
of the
is
first.
safe at first on the E6. That puts runners at 1 and 3. Next at the plate for Colonial, second baseman number 17, Carlos Pena.
And so once again, As you heard Mark say, that was actually Reinert, the shortstop, who was unable to corral that ball. And that'll be strike one to Pena. He starts off 0-1. So a very difficult fly ball to handle there for Reinert going backwards. And now it pays dividends for Colonial as that ball slapped over shortstop into the outfield, and now the error, and that's going to allow a third run to come in as Wekiva is yet to come up to the plate, and then a third error in this inning, 2 on the same play, and now a chance to go 4-0 for Jimenez with 2 outs.
Darwin Jimenez picks up the RBI single and gets extra bases on the error, and that will also score a second run. Next at the plate for Colonial, designated hitter number 42, Darwin Jimenez.
So 3 errors now in this inning, along with a wild pitch.
Actually, that's 4 because there were 2 before that play. There was a throwing error at shortstop and a fielding error at shortstop.
Either way, point is a 3-0 lead for Colonial on senior night. And now the 1-1 count on Jimenez. All 3 runs unearned, and Colonial still with an opportunity to do more damage as they have a runner on third. 2-1 count now. Of course, Mustang Field, the home site right next to the 429 on the southeast side of Apopka. That ball whacked into foul territory. That'll even the count at 2-2. Of course, if you're traveling over the 429, that's a state route, the toll road. You can see the softball in baseball fields to your right. And now the sun descending on Mustang Field as we go full on the count. Runner at third, 2 outs. A 3-0 already for Colonial in the top of the first inning. Wekiva yet to touch a bat. Already down by 3 runs. And that is going to get out of play. So everybody back to your assigned position. Thank you for joining us on this Monday night. Of course, we are also very aware that the March Madness concludes tonight, the NCAA Basketball Championship Tournament, the men's. So we do appreciate you tuning in for a few minutes tonight before the game, spending a part of this evening with us as there's ball 4, and now 2 runners aboard with 2 outs, and that will bring Rosa, the 8th batter in this inning, to the plate.
Pena walks to first. Next to the plate for Colonial, catcher number 9, Justin Rosa.
So Rosa continues the Colonial at-bat, and he also continues the opportunity to get that lead up to 4-0. And make that now possibly 5-0 on a single as Jimenez scoots on down to second base without a throw. Credit him with a stolen base. Temperature around 80 degrees. Slight breeze coming in behind home plate as that ball sliced behind home plate. Now a 1-1 count. So I'm Neil Fisher, the other voice you were hearing, who's also our public address announcer, Mark Barchi. Thank you for joining us on this late Monday in the season. And now the bases will be loaded. Rosa taking the pitch on the shoulder. 9 batters now coming to the plate in the top of the first inning. Wekiva yet to touch home plate. Rosa reaches first base on the hit by pitch. And that brings to the plate with the bases loaded the left fielder, number 20, Cruz. So Steven Cruz steps in, bases loaded, chance to do a whole lot of damage as he looks at ball one. Wekiva trying to get that third out. Cruz, the sixth batter to bat with 2 outs. He's now looking at the 2-0 count. Cruz also the number 9 batter. So certainly everything that Colonial would like and everything that Wekiva not in this top of the first inning. The high, hard swing, no avail. And that'll take the count to 1-2. Excuse me, a 2-1 count. Bases loaded, 2 outs, top of the first, already a 3-0 lead for Colonial. And now Cruz, the batter, looking at a 3-1 count against John, making only his second start of the season and 4th appearance in total. And the delivery. And there's your 4th run as John unable to find the plate. Ball 4. And that'll
Carlos Pena comes home, forced there by the walk of Steven Cruz. 4 runs on the board now for the Grenadiers. Next at the plate, Colonial returns to the top of the card with shortstop number 1, Joel Beaton. Well, Neil, first sign of a game that's not going your way is when you run the entire card in the first inning.
Yeah, we've talked about that. And Beaton, and we're going to see a 5-0 lead. We got a balk being called as well. So I guess the good news is for Wekiva, bases are no longer loaded.
Balk is called, and that will score Darwin Jimenez. Runners now at 2 and 3.
I was going to say the bad news is you're now down 5-0 as everybody drops another 90 feet. And as you can see, John now discussing the matter with our referee, or at least I'm assuming he's discussing what he did wrong. Again, John has not seen a lot of time on the mound this year, only his 4th appearance, 2nd start in total. So certainly looks like a pitcher who has not seen a lot of time on the mound. With that said, his defense has also let him down, and I bring that up because Beaton was the most important batter to reach base as he connects. And will this ball drop in? No. Nice running catch by Fritchley getting underneath it. But to clear up quickly, Beaton reaching base as the leadoff hitter on an error by shortstop Reiner, dropping that fly ball. Otherwise, it should have been no runs, no hits.
Makes the fly catch, and that takes us to the end of the first inning. The middle of the first inning. In that half inning, 5 runs scored on 1 hit with 4 Mustang errors, leaving 2 on base. And the score now stands 5-0 at the end of half an inning. If you are not familiar with our broadcasts, just to let you know, you will hear silence during the pause between half innings. Do not adjust your television set. That is normal. It's just because we have to mute the sound here in the ballpark so that we do not run afoul of any copyright guidelines. But don't worry, we'll be back in just a moment. As we enter the bottom of the first inning, the Mustangs begin with their leadoff hitter, second baseman number 9, Darrell Martinez. Back to live action here from Mustang Field.
Wekiva facing a 5-0 lead, obviously. Position no team wants to be in the bottom of the first, as the count now 1-1 on Martinez. He'll be followed by Brady and Vigil. 5 unearned runs in that first inning. 4 errors as the count now goes to 1-2 on Martinez.
And chasing that high heat.
Martinez batting .290 on the season. Couple of RBIs and a triple. And the delivery from Mancebo, that'll take the count to 2-2. So the inning unraveled on the first batter. Top of the first inning, that's beaten. He reached base on an error by Reinert. As the count now goes full to the leadoff hitter, bottom of the first inning, 5-0 lead for Colonial. In this matchup between two teams looking to create some momentum heading into the postseason. Neither team really having any throughout this season. And Wekiva gets exactly what it needs, that walk to Martinez after a 1-2 start to the at-bat. And that'll bring up Reinert, the shortstop.
Martinez walks to first. Next to the plate will be shortstop number 4, Brady Reinert.
And immediately Reinert taking off, throw down to second. Throw gets down there, but no attempted tag. So Wekiva, at least in terms of runners on base.
Does that still count as a bunt if he gets the base and you don't actually make contact with the ball?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
No, I'm kidding.
Anyway, Martinez at second base with nobody out. Wekiva trailing 5-0. Reinert drops the bunt. That'll take the count to 1-1. Of course, Reinert...
That'd be 0-2 now.
Excuse me, 0-2. Of course, Reinert, one of the faces of the 2025 team, comes in batting .348 with 9 RBIs and a double. And from that number 2 hole, he has the most plate appearances on the team with 64. And obviously, he can atone for a couple of those errors. With that runner on second, quick throw down there from Rosa, and that turns out to be a bad decision. As now Wekiva, runner at third with nobody out, the slide from Martinez.
Are you charging that as an error, or did he make an attempt to steal first?
Well, he did. Yeah, that's an error. I don't think there was an attempt on Martinez by Martinez. So your defensive lineup for Colonial, Rosa behind the plate, who of course just made that errant throw. Al McGuire on first. Second is Pena, as Brady unable to catch up with the low heat. In the hole is beaten.
Now at the plate for the Mustangs is number 8, Jazion Vigil, the third baseman, as he swings at strike 1. After the K recorded, and now he gets beamed. Vigil will advance to first on the hit batsman. That puts runners at 1 and 3 for first baseman number 18, Charles Neal.
So now with Vigil at first, finish his at bat. He was batting .250 on the season with a pair of RBIs. Obviously, the batting average does not change. That's not an official plate appearance. So now runners at first and third with 1 out. And at the plate is Neal. He's batting .250 as well on the season, with a pair of RBIs as well. And actually, excuse me, Vigil actually still looking for his first at-bat. That was only his 5th plate appearance, as the count now starts 1-0 on Neal. Neal, the first baseman tonight. And now he looks at a 2-0 count. Trotting down to second base is Vigil. So certainly the opportunity for Neal to do some damage to help his team. They trail 5-0 in the bottom of the first inning. With only one out, can help his own individual stats. And remains patient at the plate, 3-0. Quick throw from Rosa. So a 3-0 count now. One pitch away from loading the bases. That's Mancebo on the mound. And he does officially load the bases with one out.
Neal walks to first. Base is now loaded for pitcher number 15, Sean John.
And thank you, Mark. Of course, I'm Neil Fisher, Mark being Mark Barchi, who's also our public address announcer. That's why you hear him in the tone that you do.
Yes, and also why if it's a little more boomy and echoey,
yes,
that's because you're hearing those speakers.
And Mark, I brought you in because you just mentioned that John is the pitcher, which means after giving up 5 runs, albeit all unearned, as he looks at strike one, as the old saying goes, he has a chance to help his own cause now with those bases loaded.
Absolutely, and of course the Mustangs, just because of the way things worked out with the talent in the lineup, they do not take advantage of the designated hitter rule. Sometimes they do, not today.
Now a 1-0 count. And
although even when Wekiva does take advantage of the designated hitter rule, they very rarely use it for the pitcher, which is, of course, the most common.
And speaking of John helping his own cause, as he's now looking at a 1-1 count, a 1-2 count, could help his own individual stats as well, batting only .083 for the season. He's only had 16 plate appearances, 12 official at-bats, and a pair of RBIs, a delivery from Mancebo, and what we were hoping not to see, unable to catch up with the heat right over the plate, 2 outs.
Second strikeout recorded for Mancebo. 2 away now for the Mustangs. Next at the plate, right fielder, number 13, Gabriel Prochet.
So Prochet steps in, still runners on every base with 2 outs now. And he takes some heavy swing at that first pitch to no effect. Mancebo whipping the pitch fastball by him. Prochet looking for his first hit of the season. 3 plate appearances, 3 at-bats. And as he now looks at strike 2, standing there. Of course, this couldn't be a better time to get that first hit, trailing 5-0. Colonial trying to get out of the inning with no damage done. Great stop by Rosa. Speaking of no damage done, give him a check there if they do get out of this inning without a hit or a walk to Prochet. He'll be responsible. Great stop. So the delivery from Mancebo with the bases loaded, and that'll take the count to 2-2. And again, Rosa doing a fine job behind the plate. Exactly what the catcher's supposed to do, playing backstop on that high, hard heat. 2-2 count, bases loaded, 2 outs, 5-0 lead for Colonial. And just when it looked like Colonial was going to get out of the inning, the mistake, as Prochet takes one.
Prochet advances to first, and that will force home Martinez with the Mustangs on the board. Bases remain loaded. Next at the plate for the Mustangs, catcher number 3, Cody Bowen.
Now Bowen will step in, and now we have a keep the lineup moving forward situation. Still a 5-1 lead, still a comfortable lead for Colonial. That ball smacked up high, and no problem for Beaton.
Made it shortstop by Joel Beaton, and that will take us to the end of the first inning. In that half inning, 1 run scored on no hits with 1 Grenadier error, leaving 3 on base, and the score stands 5-1 Grenadiers at the end of 1 inning. Back with more from Mustang Field in a moment. As we enter the top of the second inning, the Grenadiers will begin in the second position of their lineup with center fielder number 10, Joan Ruscat. And we have some rotations in the field for the Mustangs.
Yes.
Most notably, Sean John remains on the pitcher's mound.
A 5-0 lead for Colonial. As Mark just mentioned, top of the second inning, so certainly that first inning goes to Colonial as Ruscat swinging at that first pitch. John camping underneath it, doing a nice job of putting the first out away.
Sean John has the fly catch on the pitcher's mound, one away for the Grenadiers. Next at the plate for Colonial, third baseman number 2, Felix Castillo.
So Castillo steps in. Before we go there, Ruscat now 0 for 2. He's actually flown out to John, just popped the ball up both times. Castillo 0 for 1. He flew out to Reinert, the shortstop. He looks at ball 1. And Mark, as you mentioned,
could have filed your taxes in the time it took that pitch to get there.
Mark, as you just mentioned, we are beginning to see some player rotations. Of course, tonight is senior night. That's common. As Reinert unable to snag that ball. Looked like he was going to have it, and a highlight reel, but that was not to be.
What do you think, Neil? You going to give him the single for that?
Yeah, that's a single.
I can't disagree. Castillo, with just out of reach of the shortstop, picks up the single to first. Next at the plate, right fielder, number 23, Jamar Acosta.
And Acosta will step in. He does not have an official plate appearance. Walked in his first at-bat, scored the second run. Colonial sent 10 men to the plate in that first inning as Bowen does not make the throw down to second. And now what we saw in that first inning, a chance for Colonial to further extend the lead with the runner at second base. So all 5 runs scored in that first inning were unearned as the count now goes to 2-0. And Mark, I was going to say, I know it can't be me, but it seems like every other call we're saying the name Brady Reinert.
Yes, he is all over the place. I mean, and that's not just because he plays shortstop. I mean, shortstop sees a lot of action. There's a reason why you put your most agile fielder in that position, because a lot of infield contacts go that way. And now just a lot of speed dropping off of John. He tried to throw a curve there, and that fell straight down at the plate. So obviously, as you alluded to earlier, Neil, this is common in every sport, not just baseball. There goes the runner. Got him.
And that will be the first out of the inning.
Second
out, excuse me. Yes, second.
Castillo is caught stealing at third. 2 away now for the Grenadiers. Wind picking up again. We had some really gusty conditions at the beginning of this game. That's high heat, and that'll be enough to pick up the walk. Acosta walks to first. Next to the plate will be first baseman, number 46, Jesus Almaguer.
Yeah,
so as you started to allude to earlier, Neil, this is common in all sports, not just baseball, but you make changes to your starting lineup on senior night if possible. If you have more spaces in your lineup available than you have seniors, you make sure all of your seniors are represented in your lineup, even if that means that people who would not normally start are starting, even if that means people are playing a position they would not normally play. It is just an honorary thing to do. Sometimes not always possible in sports like basketball where you can only have 5 starters and you have more than 5 seniors. But in this case, all 7 seniors represented in the starting lineup tonight. That one's going up, and down, 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 down into the waiting glove. Mustangs second baseman Martinez on the fly catch, and that will take us to the middle of the second inning. In that half inning, no runs scored on no hits, with no Mustang errors, leaving one on base. And the score remains 5-1 at the end of an inning and a half. Back with more from Mustang Field after a quick break. As we enter the bottom of the second inning, the Mustangs will begin in the 8th position of their lineup with left fielder number 16, Nathan Fritchley.
And the good news for Wekiva is Fritchley gets plunked. Of course, that's good news, getting your leadoff hitter on. Good news is no run scored in the previous inning. Bad news is the score is still 5-1. And that'll bring James, the center fielder, to the plate.
Fritchley advances to first on the hit batsman. Next to the plate for the Mustangs will be center fielder number 1, Noah James.
So Fritchley and James, the 8 and 9 bat.
Fielder's choice is made at shortstop to put one away for the Mustangs. Runner still at 1 now, and next to the plate for Wekiva they return to the top of the card with second baseman number 9, Darrell Martinez. Welcome back to Mustang Field. Apologies for the technical difficulties there. We had the computer spontaneously restart on us, but we are back and running now. You didn't miss much except a couple balls and strikes.
In and out.
Well, yes, right as the broadcast resumed, we had the fielder's choice at second base.
So a 5-1 lead remains intact for Colonial. They scored all 5 runs in the first inning. Of course, we're only in the bottom of the second. All 5 runs unearned. The game beginning with an error by your shortstop, Reinert, unable to corral a high fly ball. Throw down the second. No tag, as the ball was on the outside, and so for the second consecutive batter, Wekiva now has a runner at second base, although 1 out now. And then the next 2 batters were induced into hitting into outs by John, the starter. And so it should have been a 1-2-3 inning. Instead, 10 batters came to the plate wearing a Colonial uniform in a 5-0 lead. Wekiva did get 1 back. And they're bottom of the first. Long throw over to second from Pena, and he's unable to make it accurately, and now a 5-2 deficit.
James comes home on the E6, and that will put the Mustangs on their first run of the half inning. Cuts the lead to 5-2, and a runner at second. Next at the plate for Wekiva, shortstop number 4, Rady Rennert.
And as I mentioned, Reinert stepping in with a chance to undo some of the mistakes he did, and it's not the prettiest, but he gets the job done. The infield single keeps the lineup moving forward.
Renard on the infield single. That'll put a hit up for the Mustangs and put runners at 1 and 3. Next at the plate for Wekiva. We'll have a substitution into the lineup. In place of Vigil, we'll have number 12, Jaden Graham. We'll pause for a timeout.
And so now while we have that timeout, as you just heard Mark say, we're getting a pitching change, I believe. Reinert now 1 for 2. He did strike out his first at bat, so a bit of redemption for Reinert. And as I mentioned, a little while ago, it just seems like Reinert tonight, for whatever reason, just keeps coming up over and over. Of course, Reinert, the face of this program, statistically, he's batting .348, so his average will go up a little bit more.
Now on the pitcher's mound for the Grenadiers, number 42, Darwin Jimenez.
And as you also heard Mark say, before he just introduced Jimenez, he introduced Graham for Wekiva. He'll be batting for Vigil. Of course, Vigil a senior, so he gets to start tonight, which Mark also explained. Graham, your second leading hitter, batting average-wise. For Wekiva, .327 batting average, 8 RBIs, 5 doubles, and a pair of triples. And, of course, this is not only because it's senior night, but strategically you need to put him in. You're down 5-2, and you got a chance to do some damage as far as cutting that lead down. Wekiva comes in at 6-14, with Colonial 7-12. So both these teams looking to create some momentum in this last week.
Checking into the lineup for the Mustangs, number 12, Jaden Graham.
Throw down to second.
Got him.
And Reinert goes down, as you heard Mark say.
Reinert is caught stealing at second base. That's 2 away now for the Mustangs. Strike at the plate.
Runner's still at third. And got a stoppage as Reinert drops off the field and now crosses third base, and everybody gets back to their assigned position with Jimenez on the mound, and we'll go do it all over again. So an 0-2 count now on Graham. This is his first at-bat of the night, pitch hitter. Steps back in. Jimenez gets his sign from Rosa. And the delivery, and we'll be looking at a 1-2 count with a runner at third base. 2 outs. Colonial taking advantage of 4 errors in that first inning, along with a wild pitch, to build a 5-0 lead. Wekiva has cut the lead to 5-2. And that'll take the count. No, that was a balk.
Balk is called, and that will score a run for the Mustangs as Martinez comes home.
So,
each team now has a run scored on a balk.
Yes, and if you're new to baseball, the pitch does not count, as the count now goes 2-2 when there's a balk, because as soon as the balk is committed, the play is over. So, again, that means that the pitch does not count. That's why the count remained 1-2, now 2-2. And, of course, the bases are empty. Make that a 3-2 count now on Graham. So Wekiva has clawed his way back to at least being within shouting distance, a 5-3 deficit. What was once 5-0. And this is going to go out of play.
Oh, I forgot to reset the pitch count. Let's see.
So full count once again. Jimenez leans over, gets his sign. The delivery, and ball 4. The inning will continue. Runner at first now as Neal comes up. He walked in his first at-bat.
Runner on first now. As Graham advances on the walk. Next at the plate, first baseman number 18, Charles Neal.
One 0 count. So this is actually the second time these two teams have played, as the count now goes to 1-1. Neal unable to catch up. That was a curveball with some heat. A 13-1 victory taken by Colonial on February 28th. Same story in that game, exact same amount of runs, as the count now 2-1. They plated 5 runs in the first inning, and obviously with giving up only 1, they never looked back. Put 6 on the board in the third and then another 2 in the fourth. And of course the 13-1 meant it was a 5-run.
Straight into the glove of the third baseman, and easy pickings. Play is made on the throw from Castillo to Almaguer, and that will take us to the end of the second inning. In that half inning, the Mustangs scored 2 runs on no hits, with no Colonial errors, leaving 1 on base. And the score now stands 5-3 at the end of 2 innings. Back with more from Mustang Field in just a moment. As we enter the top of the third inning, the Grenadiers will begin in the 6th position of their lineup with second baseman number 17, Carlos Pena.
And as Pena steps in, he'll be followed by Jimenez and Rosa, a 5-3 lead for Colonial. John continues on the mound and begins the top of the third inning with a strike.
Here his teammates chanting he's a freshman. Always encouraging when you see somebody make the varsity team in their very first time out.
John delivers, that ball slapped into foul territory, 1-2 count. Pena 1 for 1. Singled in the first inning in an RBI. Makes contact again. This should be the first out of the inning as Neal trots under. And there is your first out of the inning.
Fly catch is made for the Mustangs by Emil Flocker, now in at first base. One away for the Grenadiers. Next at the plate, the designated hitter number 42, Darwin Jimenez.
Jimenez looking for his first official at-bat. Came up in the first, drew a walk, and he begins this at-bat with the 1-0 count. So does appear, at least in this moment in time, as the count now 1-1. John fooling Jimenez. That Wekiva has settled down. 5-3 is your score. They gave up those 5 runs as the count goes 2. Count remains 1-2. 5 runs in the first inning, all 5 unearned. They have not given up. They did not give up a run in the second. And John has gotten 4 of the last 5 batters out. And with that 4 out of 5 streak, they have done some damage, cut into that lead. Now a 5-3 deficit. Here on senior night at Mustang Field. That ball lifted behind the plate, giving chase is Bowen, and unable to corral what could have been a gimme out.
Yeah, it should be noted that you can't be charged with an error for that. You cannot be charged with an error for failing to field a foul ball.
So everybody back to your assigned positions, and the 1-2 count now goes to 2-2 as Jimenez getting some music on the backside. Of course, Mustang Field right next to State Route 429. That ball's chopped over to second. A shortstop, Reiner scoops over, and long throw and another error. Trying to throw that off his back foot. And so we'll see if that's going to be cause some damage here like it did in the first inning.
Jimenez safe at first on the error. Next at the plate, catcher number 9, Justin Rosa.
And Rosa also looking for his first at-bat. He was hit by a pitch in that first inning. Not only did 5 runs cross home plate for Colonial in that first inning, but they also set 10 men to the plate. Hit batsman. And now we'll have runners
Rosa
at
will
first and
advance to
second.
first on the hit batsman, and runners at 1 and 2 now for number 20, the left fielder, Stephen Cruz.
So an interesting stat, Mark, and of course you don't need to be the proverbial baseball guru to understand. Only 2 hits between the 2 teams. Both teams getting 1 hit, yet there's been 8 runs on the board, and now there's a threat of upping out to 8 runs in total. Wekiva's committed 5 errors. And Jimenez takes third. Rosa decides to stay at first. And so now with only 1 out, guess I shouldn't have mentioned that. Looked like Wekiva had settled down, righted the ship. Of course, with 1 out, that keeps the whole playbook open. And now we got runners at second and third as Rosa scampers down there without a throw. A single now most likely makes this a 7-3 lead, back up to 4 runs for Colonial. So John got his work cut out. He needs to get an out here. There is 1 out. Trying to get Cruz to go for some chin music. Cruz declines. Takes the count to 2-0. Runners at second and third, one out. 5-3 lead for Colonial, and now a 3-1. Nope,
Make it
that's
four.
Ball four.
I was one behind. I was busy posting to Instagram.
And that will load the bases with just one out.
Cruz advances to first on the base on balls, and the Grenadiers return to the top of the card with shortstop number 1, Joel Beaton, and loaded bases.
And those bases have been loaded without a hit. To reiterate, Mark, just one hit now by Colonial. And the 5-3 lead.
It's an odd box score to be sure.
Yeah, ball one, by the way.
5 runs on 3 hits for Colonial. Wekiva 3 runs on 1 hit. Whenever you have more runs than hits, that tells you something funky is going on. And did the Mustangs make the chase? They did. Fielder's choice is made at second base, but 2 runs will score on the throw. Gutsy move there. As Jimenez and Rosa score. And Neil, I don't know, do you want to call that a clean run on the throw, or do you want to give an error for being too slow to get the ball back home?
No, that's an RBI. So.
Oh, for sure. The first one is. The question is the second run.
Yeah, the second one is because he didn't really make an error per se. It was a mental mistake. It was more of a mental mistake, as you pointed out, not paying attention. And that will do it. Nice job by Martinez, loping underneath that to corral it.
Martinez on the fly catch at second base, and that takes us to the middle of the third inning, but not before the Grenadiers put up 2 runs on no hits, with no Mustang errors, leaving 1 on base, and the score now stands 7-3 Grenadiers at the end of 2.5 innings. Back with more from Mustang Field in a moment. The Mustangs will begin the bottom of the third inning in the 5th position of their lineup with pitcher number 15, Sean John. Welcome back to Mustang Field. John opens with a called strike, and the Mustangs looking to dig out of a hole here as we've got 2.5 innings gone. That one is low for a 1-1 count. Colonial 7 runs, come on just 3 hits, but 5. Count them 5 Mustang errors. So a bit of sloppiness in the field tonight for Wekiva, doing part of Colonial's work for them. as John fouls away the third pitch to make it a 1-2 count. Mustangs, for their part, have picked up 3 runs on just 1 hit. So both teams struggling a little bit with inconsistent pitching tonight and inconsistent fielding. That one is high heat, and John wants none of it. It'll bring up a 2-2 count at the plate. It is senior night here at Mustang Field, so before the game this evening, we recognized our 7 members of the class of 2025. If you missed that, it is on its own separate live stream, so don't rewind this one all the way to the beginning. You won't find it there. It's on a separate live stream posted to YouTube and the NFHS network. We invite you to watch that on demand and help us celebrate our class of 2025 as John fouls away to keep the count full. Of course, tradition holds that you have senior night on the last regular season home game. However, as we get a foul tip into the glove on strike 3, we'll record the swinging strikeout for Jimenez. 1 away now for the Mustangs. Next at the plate for Wekiva, number 17, Austin Schwartz, who checks into the lineup for Prochet. So this is, in fact, Schwartz, not Prochet. We'll get that fixed on the card. And a mighty swing at the first pitch will bring up an 0-1 count. So again, as I started to say a moment ago, it is customary and traditional to have senior night on the very last home game of the regular season. However, particularly when you have outdoor sports that are weather dependent, the last thing you want to do is schedule senior night on the last game that it can be scheduled, and then lo and behold have to reschedule that game as we get a wild pitch at the plate, but nobody on base to take advantage of it, and so that'll just be a 1-2 count. So in any case, Coach Tatai made the call to hold senior night tonight, even though there are still 1 or 2 more home games on the schedule. Next week is actually the end of regular season play, not this week, and that is fouled away to keep the count alive at 1-2. The left-handed batter here as Schwartz checks into the lineup for Prochet, and a caught looking. Jimenez records the looking strikeout, and that'll put 2 away now for the Mustangs. Next at the plate for Wekiva, catcher number 3, Cody Bowen. So as you say, Neil, caught standing like the house on the side of the road, and the Mustangs now looking at their 3rd and final out for this half inning, and it's going to start with a called strike.
Yeah, and just want to reiterate that standing on the house like the side of the road, that's a tribute to my childhood hero, Ernie Harwell. We'll get more into that in the 2nd inning as the ball scooped up, gobbled up by Beaton over to first in a 1-2-3 inning.
6-3 ground out recorded for the Grenadiers on the throw from Beaton to Almager, and that takes us to the end of the 3rd inning. In that half inning, 3 up and 3 down. No runs, no hits, no errors, none left on base, and the score remains unchanged. 7-3 at the end of 3 innings. Back with more from Mustang Field in a moment. as we enter the top of the fourth inning, the Grenadiers will begin in the third position of their lineup with third baseman number 2, Felix Castillo. Welcome back to Mustang Field, and I apologize, I misspoke a moment ago. I said next week is the last week of the regular season. That's true for softball. It is not true for baseball. Baseball last regular season playing date is actually indeed
Thursday,
this Friday.
Friday.
So this is the end of the road for baseball. I forgot softball is actually runs a week later than baseball this year because of the experiments that they're doing with the postseason. So they needed an extra week of postseason for baseball. That's why the regular seasons don't line up between softball and baseball, and that's a good clean hit.
Second of the game.
Castillo records the single into left field. He's safe at first. Next at the plate for the Grenadiers, number 23, the right fielder, Jamar Acosta.
And a 7-3 lead for Colonial, and they begin the fourth inning with the single. John's still in. He's a starter. And we've seen that all night. That stolen base of second without a throw.
Yeah, I remember when I don't keep stats live here because I'm doing too many other things with directing and announcing, but when I've used Game Changer as a scorekeeper, there actually is a button that says defensive indifference. I'm always tempted to hit that, but it is statistically a stolen base.
Yeah, again, I do actually keep stats, do it the old-fashioned way.
Yes, you're sitting here the last person on earth with a paper card, keeping stats.
Yes. It's more of a supplemental, but my point is that I could give you how many stolen bases they have, but I can't tell you how many times they've stolen without the throw. But I do tell you by the eye test it's at least 5 tonight. As the count now 3-0 on Acosta, he is so far no official plate appearance. No at bat. The count now 3-1. He's walked both times up, scored a run. And Mark, just want to get back to this since we did bring it up at the end of the last inning. Started to tell you about Ernie Harwell. Well, we'll have to get back to that in a moment as the long throw to first. And that's an out.
The play is made on the throw to first base. The catch there made by Flocker, so that'll put one away, but it does advance the runner to third. Next at the plate will be number 46, the first baseman, Jesus Almaguer.
And so give Acosta credit. He does his job. That was advancing the runner. It wasn't spectacular. But now a chance to up that lead, which is now 7-3 in favor of Colonial. We're at 4 at Mustang Field as Almaguer looks at strike one, right next to the 429 in southeast Apopka. And getting back to Ernie Harwell as John gets his sign. And that'll take the count to 0-2. Of course, now I'm showing my age. Ernie Harwell, the longtime play-by-play voice on primarily the radio, did on occasion do TV, but primarily on radio. I don't know the exact dates, but it was from the mid-1940s as the count goes 1-2 to 2001. Of course, I'm sure most of you have heard of Vin Scully, and I like to say that he was the Detroit Tigers equivalent of Vin Scully, just a long-time announcer. Anybody who grew up in Detroit, as the count now goes 2-2. Anybody living in Detroit from about 1945 to 2001, they might not have known who was on the Tigers. They might not have known the manager, the general manager, or even the owner, but everybody in Detroit knew who Ernie Harwell was. And that'll take the count to strike three, actually, much needed as the whole
John records the swinging strikeout to put 2 away for the Grenadiers. Next at the plate for Colonial, second baseman number 17, Carlos Pena.
And so Pena with a runner at third and 2 outs. 7-3 lead for Colonial in the top of the fourth. Pena 1 for 2, singled in the first, got an RBI, scored a run, and then flew out to the first baseman Flaquer. He begins with ball 1. And so just to close out about Ernie Harwell, as I guess maybe it's apropos, but of course Almaguer striking out without swinging the bat. The look, that's why I like to say every now and then was...
nice soft pop-up, and fly catch is made on the pitcher's mound by John, and that will take us to the middle of the 4th inning. No runs scored on 1 hit with no Mustang errors, leaving 1 on base, and the score remains 7-3 Grenadiers at the end of 3.5 innings. Back with more from Mustang Field in just a moment. As we enter the bottom of the 4th inning, the Mustangs will begin in the 8th position of their lineup with left fielder number 16, Nathan Fritchley.
And Wekiva will also begin the inning trailing 7-3. Colonial has led from the beginning. They pushed 5 runs across in the first inning as ball 1 delivered from Jimenez. And then they pushed 2 more across. Colonial, that is, in the 3rd. All 7 of those runs are unearned as the count goes to 2-0. Are both those games, that 2 games against Colonial, are home and home, right? Or are they both away? 2-1 or 3-0 count now.
Away and home.
So as Mark mentioned, 2 more games. They're both against Socoy on Thursday and Friday, a home-and-home series. Thursday's night game here at Mustang Field as strike 1 called, 3-1 count. And, of course, the season concludes on Friday away, Ocoee. Of course, Ocoee, one of the schools that Wekiva began with. A long throw over to first from Castillo. Nice job. 1 up, 1 down in the bottom of the 4th.
5-3 ground out recorded on the throw from Castillo to Almaguer. 1 away now for the Mustangs. Next at the plate for Wekiva, center fielder, number 1, Noah James.
And nightfall has descended upon Mustang Field next to the 429. And it's a very comfortable night. I don't see any clouds in the sky, Mark. Temperatures in about 77 degrees. And the gusts that we had when we started the game are no longer gusting.
Yeah, I was worried we were not going to be able to keep the score table together here. Your papers were flying everywhere. My lineup cards were flying everywhere. The microphone that we used to capture ambient sound was flying off the table.
Yes, it looked like a scene out of Jurassic Park didn't have the dinosaurs, but all the other elements.
And so now we turn our attention to...
Excuse me, a scene out of Twister.
Yes.
Looked like Jurassic Park too, but I meant Twister.
Yeah, so now we turn our attention to perhaps a different variety of disaster movies, at least if you look at the line score. As we get a called strike here, Colonial, 7 runs on 4 hits against 5 Mustang errors. Wekiva, 3 runs on 1 hit against 1 Grenadier error. Got a couple of balks, 1 on each side.
And of course, tonight being senior night, 8 seniors being honored. You can get that stream if you were unable to see it live. It is recorded on the Wekiva Mustangs site.
At least I'm trusting YouTube about that. I'll independently verify it later.
Full count now.
Indeed, 3-2. 1 away. Mustangs looking to make up 4 runs here. High. And James wants none of it. And he is right to let that one go by. James walks to first. Next at the plate, the Mustangs will return to the top of their card with second baseman number 9, Darrell Martinez.
So Martinez will step in with a runner at first base and 1 out. Certainly an opportunity for Wekiva to cut into that lead. Safe signal as James slides back. A lot of dirt, but end result safe. So James now in scoring position. Martinez, he's been up twice, reached base twice. Reached on a base on balls in the first inning, reached in the second, an error by Pena. And now, so much for the scoring opportunity, James.
Picked off at second on the throw to Pena. 2 away for the Mustangs. So, successfully got the stolen base, but then got greedy on the leadoff.
Again, mental error. And we've seen them all throughout the season as look out in the dugout there. Didn't go into the dugout, but about 2 feet to the right.
Yeah, fascinating to me how in high school, the way that fields are constructed, the dugout is not actually dug out. It's just at surface level and has a waist-high chain link fence in front of it that doesn't really do a lot to protect the players. Meanwhile, softball is constructed completely differently. They put a chain link fence full floor to ceiling in front of the entire dugout.
Yeah, and I'd also point out, Mark, at least most of the Little League leagues that I've covered, it's like the softball. They do have that protection, and it's actually below the surface level. The floor is below the field level. So the 3-1 count now, that's going to drop in. Nice piece of hitting from Martinez. He rounds first. It's going to be extra bases all the way to the fence. Cruz, does he go for 3? Yes. The throw. 1 throw. Second throw. Safe. And
Score the triple for the Mustangs. Martinez, as he beats the throw to third on a clean hit and deep into left field.
So Wekiva showing some life in the bottom of the 4th inning, trailing 7-3. Of course, the bad news is there is 2 outs, and that's where the game picked off by James. The mental mistakes. It was not a direct damage, but there, if he had been able to stay on base, you now have a 7-4 ball game.
Nevertheless, an opportunity, despite that, for Martinez to perhaps score here.
This is Reinert at the plate. Reinert 1 for 2 tonight, struck out, got an infield single in the second. As we mentioned, leading hitter, at least in terms of batting average, entering tonight's game. Batting .348. And he's made several errors tonight, too.
Yeah, struggling a bit on defense.
So Reinert, to use the old cliche, chance to gain some redemption here with this runner on third base as a count.
This play, though, Jimenez may not give him the chance. Walk wouldn't be the worst thing, though.
Yeah, you have Graham coming up next, who's the second leading batter, batting .327. So Reinert steps back in. Jimenez gets his sign. 3-1 pitch, make that 3-2. Reinert actually stepped out of the box.
Yeah, he was not going to swing at that no matter where it was.
Again,
he's like, come on, walk me, I dare you.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was Coach Tate giving him the order or Reinert decided, but interesting either way. And now on the 3-2 count, that's ball 4. And so now runners at first and third, like you pontificated about, Mark.
Reinert advances to first with the base on balls. Next at the plate for the Mustangs will be number 12, Jaden Graham.
So Graham steps in. Reiterate, batting .327 when the game started. This is actually his second plate appearance. He's actually still batting .327 because he walked. He came in for Vigil, tonight being senior night. Vigil drew the start. So Graham, an opportunity to cut this lead. There are 2 outs. Throw down the second. It's a double steal. Throw home. Safe. No, out.
On the double steal, the Mustangs, Martinez thrown out at home. So that will strand a runner on and take us straight to the end of the 4th inning with no runs scored on 1 hit with no Grenadier errors, 1 left on base. And the score remains 7-3 Grenadiers at the end of 4 innings. Back with more from Mustang Field in a moment. As we enter the top of the 5th inning, the Grenadiers begin in the 7th position of their lineup with DH and now pitcher number 42, Darwin Jimenez.
And Jimenez will be fouled, at least scheduled to be fouled by Rosa and Cruz. Jimenez 0 for 1 tonight, walked in the first inning, count now 1-1. And then he reached base on one of Reinert's errors in the third, scored both times, 2 of those 7 runs. Wekiva has been trailing throughout the entire game. They gave up 5 runs in the first and 2 in the third, all 7 unearned. That's John on the mound. He's gone the distance. And now the 2-1 pitch, make that 2-2. As a somewhat hesitant swing.
Now keep in mind that I do not have official stats here, but just from what I've been pushing buttons in the scoreboard, I've got 44 balls, 22 strikes, 2 foul balls, and 10 in play. So that's 78 pitches.
Make that 79 now.
Give or take.
Yes,
I sometimes forget to hit the button when they put the ball in play and it doesn't actually add to the count. But right around 80 pitches, so just keep that in mind. Of course, if you've watched our previous live broadcast, you know that those pitch count limits can sometimes arrive at inopportune times.
That's ball goes high.
All the way to the back fence.
And James unable to track that in the lights. So that will be a double.
You get a hit for
double.
That?
Well, yeah, it's high school, so
fair enough.
We'll be kind on that. But again, that was more of a mental error. And we're also getting a pinch runner.
Gets it back far enough to pick up 2 bases. And coming in as a courtesy runner for him at second base is Jose Marrero, number 55. So again, just in case you're not familiar with the nuances of NFHS baseball rules, there's a difference between a pinch runner and a courtesy runner. If you're coming in for the pitcher or the catcher, you are allowed to be a courtesy runner. And even though Jimenez was not the starting pitcher, he did pitch the last half inning for Colonial, and so this would be considered a courtesy runner. The difference there is that it does not count as we get a free base on a wild pitch that was behind Rosa here.
And remember, still no outs.
But in any case, a courtesy runner does not count as a substitution. So as soon as that player is no longer on base, the courtesy runner evaporates. No substitution is charged.
And just take a quick look here at the stats, team stats, your run average. Certainly Colonial looking good as the count now 2-1. They're averaging 6 runs per game. And of course they have 7. They're threatening to get 8. So they will most likely, or at least they're in the position, well, they've already, as a count now 3-1, they've exceeded their average, but an opportunity to exceed it by another run, as John, who, as Mark pointed out, getting close to his limit, ball 4. And now runners at first and third with nobody out in the top of the 5th. 7-3 lead for Colonial.
Rosa advances to first with the base on balls. Next at the plate will be left fielder number 20, Stephen Cruz. So now we'll pause for a conference. Not sure whether we're going to actually wait for the pitch count limit.
Yeah, well, Reinert's taking his shirt off. Not sure, like you, I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it, but certainly something's going on. And yes, yep. Yeah, I believe Reinert is going to come in for John now. Yeah, John's walking off the mound.
Now coming in as a relief pitcher for the Mustangs to relieve Sean John. Will be number 4, Brady Rennert. So yeah, again, by my count, we were somewhere near 80 pitches. probably a little bit more than that because I'm sure I missed a few. For what it's worth, 85 is the limit to have 3 days of required rest. If you go 86 to 110, then that's a fourth day of required rest. So when you think about Coach Taitai perhaps wanting to be able to use John again in one of the games against Ocoee later in the week, that could be part of that strategy, or just that he was getting tired. So certainly either of those viable explanations for why the change now. John being a senior, we're going to assume that he's in the 17 to 18 range, so maximum is 105 pitches, and again, once you pass 75, I apologize, I was reading the NFHS guidelines, not the FHSAA guidelines, so once you pass 75, then you need 4 days of rest. In any case, now at the plate for the Grenadiers, left fielder number 20, Stephen Cruz.
So Reinert takes over with runners at first and third, nobody out. Wekiva trailing 7-3. And as you just heard Mark say, that's Cruz at the plate. He looks at ball one. Some chin music on the first pitch from Reinert. Cruz been up twice, walked twice, has an RBI. Nothing else. He's been consistent tonight.
Pops that one out of play.
1-1. As the wind is starting to pick up again. Again, Wekiva 6-14, Grenadiers 7-12, and now we're going to have the bases loaded. Cruz doesn't walk, but he reaches base without a hit for the third time.
Cruz advances to first on the hits batsman, and that puts runners at 1, 2, and 3. As the Grenadiers return to the top of their lineup with shortstop number 1, Joel Beaton.
And Beaton comes in. Perhaps the most at bat was the very first one of the game. As you said, Mark, he's the leadoff hitter, reached base on an error. So that might be the most important one because it set the tone. And this time he delivers. He was 0 for 3 with an RBI and a run. Now he has 2 RBIs and he's 1 for 4. Lashed that ball straight over second base. First pitch, liked what he saw. And a 8-3 lead now.
Jose Marrero and Isaiah Gonzalez come home, and that puts 2 runs on the board for the Grenadiers off of the 2 RBI double from the bat of Beaton. Next to the plate, center fielder number 10, Joan Roscat.
So Roscat steps in. He's 0 for 3. He's flown out twice to the pitcher. That was actually John. And then the second baseman, Martinez, hasn't hit the ball hard tonight.
I apologize. I called that a double. It was a single.
And Reinert didn't get a chance to give his pitching stats, but he comes in with an 8.49 ERA, 1-2 record. This is his 9th appearance. And 11 walks against 13 strikeouts. So far... And make that a double so far as that ball is also lashed between the hole. And your runner at second, which is Cruz, he'll stop at third and got the bases loaded with nobody out in the bottom.
Single by Rosquet into left field will load up the bases for third baseman, number 2, Felix Castillo.
So 5 batters have come to the plate in the top of the 5th. Wekiva yet to get in out. And bases loaded with nobody out, so what could be some damage to further up the lead could be some extreme damage and may even put us in the 5-run category or 5-inning category, 10-run rule, at least threatening it. Another single would. It most likely would up your lead to 8.
Yeah, it'd be different if you had outs on the board.
Castillo 2 for 3 tonight as he looks at ball 1 from Reinert. Flew out in the first inning to Reinert, who was playing shortstop at the time, and he singled twice since then. And now he takes strike 1, 1-1 count. 9-3 lead for Colonial in the top of the 5th. They scored 5 runs in the first, 2 in the 7th, 2 in the 3rd. All those runs were unearned. They scored 2 more. The 8th and 9th run in the top of the 5th. And both of those runs have been earned, although they have had some help. A double, a walk, a hit batsman, and 2 singles. And now they'll have one given to them on the wild pitch. 10-3.
Cruz comes home on the wild pitch. Now runners at 2 and 3. 10-3 game for the Grenadiers.
So once again, want to thank you for joining us on this Monday night. Of course, we are aware that it is championship night for the men's basketball in college as the bases are now loaded yet again. Hard hit on the back. Looked like Castillo took it on the kidneys, but he looks like he's shaking it off now.
Castillo advances to first on the hit batsman. That again loads the bases. Now for right fielder number 23, Jamar Acosta.
And same situation, a single here is going to put you in that threatening to end the game in 5 innings territory.
Yeah, that would be the
8 and 9.
The game-shortening run is now on first base.
Well, the run that would give you a 10-run lead. And if you're new to high school baseball in Florida, we're referring to the 10-run rule. At 5th inning, if one of the teams has a lead of at least 10 runs, the game is over.
Now, you do have to complete the inning just like you would in a regulation game.
Yes.
So if it's the visiting team that's away, you have to make it to the end of the inning. If it's the home team that's away, you have to make it to the half inning.
Yes, the home team, as in any level of baseball, all the way from youth to the Major League Baseball, the home team does get its last at-bat if it's trailing, as the count now 2-1. In this case, Wekiva, the home team. Of course, Mustang Field right next to the 429. It's now nighttime over Mustang Field. We started at 6:30. Sun started descending about 30 minutes later.
Yeah, we were about 6:45 because of the senior night festivities.
True.
Hard chop. It brings up a 2-2 count for Acosta.
Reinert gets his sign, the delivery, and everybody back to your assigned position. Count remains 2-2. Second to last home game for Wekiva. They'll play on Thursday against Socoe, then close out the season against Socoe again on Friday. And this is what Wekiva needed. Dropped by Martinez. Quick throw to first. They do get the out, but the run does come in. Acosta doing his job.
On the throw from 4-3, and that will put one away. However, it also scores for the Grenadiers as Beaton comes home. Next at the plate for Colonial, first baseman number 46, Jesus Almagar.
And Almagar, he's 0 for 3 tonight. Reached base in the first on an error.
I believe he has at least one fan watching on our live stream. I am seeing Go Jesus. Jesus is the best. in our chat. So we either have a fan of Almager or a particularly enthusiastic follower of Jesus.
And as you mentioned, Mark, now 1 out, but still, with runners on second and third, opportunity for more damage to be done, and they won't have to. Colonial, that is. Reiner uncorking the wild pitch, and now a 9-run lead at 12-3 in the top of the 5th.
Jonas Kent comes home on the wild pitch. Unusual wild pitch strike. Almager swung at that for reasons that pass understanding.
The only thing I can think of is he got way too anxious, but nonetheless, so now another gift given by Wekiva that does not count as an unearned run, but certainly Colonial did not have to earn that, as the count now 2-1. And the first 7 runs scored by Colonial were unearned runs. Those were direct results of errors being committed in the field. In this inning, the first 2 runs were unearned, but now we've had 2 more unearned.
Almager advances to first on the hit batsman. Runners at 1 and 3 now. Next at the plate for the Grenadiers, second baseman, number 17, Carlos Pena.
And Pena now the 9th batter to come up to the plate in this 5th inning. Colonial sending 10 up to the plate in the first inning. So again, it's a more of a subtle behind-the-scenes stat, but they are threatening to send the most batters in 1 inning to the plate. As we now have 2 runners in scoring position. Pena, what we've seen all night, continuing, no throw on the attempted stolen base.
And again, as you alluded to, Neil, if either of these runners come home, then that puts the Mustangs on the clock that they must score in the bottom of the 5th inning in order to keep the game alive.
1-1 count, 2-0 count. And ball hit into center field. And caught.
It is caught, but that's going to go down as a sacrifice fly. Fielded in center field for the Mustangs by James, but it will score the run on the tag up. So now 2 away with a runner at third. Oh, correction. The ball fell, and so it is not the second out. It would have been a sacrifice fly if it had been caught. And so that will put runners at 1 and 3. And now at the plate for the Grenadiers, pitcher and DH number 42, Darwin Jimenez.
And Jimenez is the 10th batter, as no run is scored on that ball getting by Bowen. And now we're going to have a stoppage. Coach Tate coming out. And as you mentioned, Mark, Wekiva now on the clock, the 10-run rule in effect, and still only 1 out.
Yeah, I mean, at least it could have been 2 outs, and that would feel a lot better. But with only 1 out up and already into 10-run territory, things looking a little bit rough for Wekiva here, and it looks like we may see some action on the mound.
Yeah, that's Flacker who's coming in now. No, it's not Flacker, excuse me.
Yeah, Renard, who puts up some of the best numbers for Wekiva, certainly a valuable part of this team, but today just not his day, struggling in both shortstop and the pitching positions. This is Graham, I believe.
So yes, and thank you for joining us again on this Monday night, and especially if you are a college basketball fan. We know we're now about 15-20 minutes from the championship game starting between Florida and Houston, but we do appreciate you joining us, spending a part of your Monday night with us. But please remember that we are on the third base side. We are not like they are in the major leagues where we are looking over the field, so it's not always easy to see the numbers or even the faces. We can see, though, that it is number 10. And
now pitching for the Mustangs, number 10, Lucas Robinson.
So Robinson will come in, and he's tasked with what the two previous pitchers were, which is getting them out of the inning without any more runs being scored. Down by 10, 13-3 score. Runners at first and third. And Jimenez will step in. He's 3 for 3 in terms of reaching base tonight. He's actually 1 for 2. He walked, reached base on a Reinhardt error in the third, and then doubled in the fifth. He scored all 3 times as well. So he's not only made the most in terms of reaching base, but in terms of scoring when he reaches base. 3 for 3 in both categories. And now we are ready to get back to action. Excuse me, it's actually Rosa. No, Jimenez at the plate.
Darwin Jimenez at the plate for the Grenadiers. And again, Lucas Robinson on the mound for the Mustangs.
So Robinson is only his 5th appearance on the mound, a 10.50 ERA. As he delivers ball 1. 5 walks and 2 strikeouts for the junior. So we've seen on senior night Coach Tate going deep on both the lineup and the fielding and now the pitching as the count goes 2-0. So now Colonial looking to add to that 10-run lead, give them some insurance runs in terms of the 10-run rule coming into effect in the bottom of the inning. And there's some high, a mighty swing to no avail on that curveball. Robinson fooling Jimenez. And now the 3-1 count. Excuse me, now it's full at 3-2. So runners now at second and third. Pena did steal second. Robinson delivers, trying to stop the bleeding, and he will for the moment. Unable to connect. Jimenez goes down on the strikeout.
Robinson strikes out his first batter, putting 2 away for the Grenadiers. Next at the plate for Colonial, catcher number 9, Justin Rosa.
And Rosa step in. He's also 3 for 3 tonight in terms of reaching base. He does not have an official at bat. He's walked once and been hit twice, and now he does get an official at bat and an official hit. That's 1 run in, 2 runs in, a 12-run lead, and now Colonial has those couple of extra runs to work with in terms of establishing the 10-run rule going into effect in the bottom of the inning. And give 2 RBIs as well to Rosa.
2 RBI single on the books for Rosa. And that will put 15 on the board for Colonial. Next at the plate for the Grenadiers, left fielder number 20, Steven Cruz.
And so Cruz will step in and got a recurring theme here. Mark, he's 3 for 3. Reaching base, but has not had an official at bat as he starts with ball 1. He's walked twice and been hit the other time. Make that a 2-0 count. So,
and we know that we've got some March Madness about to start, so we will not criticize you if you have 2 games on your screen at once. It's okay by us. That's what modern streaming is for.
2-1. And yes, Mark, we've had that discussion, but I still say whoever came up with the idea, or whoever buddies came up with the idea of, hey, let's put the TV on the internet, are the smartest people who ever lived.
Well, they've been rewarded handsomely for their ideas.
I'm sure they have.
High inside, ball 3.
So yes, Mark, of course you've been over, spent some time in my apartment. You know I have 4 TVs and 5 laptops.
That one's headed out of play.
And of course, March Madness is my favorite event along with the baseball and softball tournaments, because with streaming nowadays I can watch double-digit streams. So I certainly am the last person to criticize. As there's strike 3, and again the tribute to Ernie Harwell, stood there like the house on the side of the road, and that does bring the inning to an end.
That takes us to the middle of the 5th inning. 8 runs scored. On 4 hits, with 1 Mustang error, leaving 1 on base. And the score now stands 15-3 at the end of 4.5 innings. The Mustangs, of course, will need to score a minimum of 3 runs in the bottom of the 5th to keep the game alive. Back with more from Mustang Field in a moment. But first, we have reached the middle of the 5th inning, and that can only mean one thing. It's time for the 5th inning stretch. So we invite you to stand up, stretch your legs. Join us now for Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I never get back, for it's root for the Mustangs. If they don't win, it's a shame, for it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Back with more in a moment. As we enter the bottom of the 5th inning, the Mustangs will begin with number 12, Jaden Graham.
And a 15-3 lead for Colonial, which we'll get to in a minute there, as Graham doing exactly what he needs to do, ripping a single on the left side of the field.
Jaden Graham singles to left field, and he is safe at first. Next at the plate for the Mustangs, that'll be number 18, the first baseman, Charles Neal.
So Graham now 1 for 1. And to reiterate, we are now in the 10-run rule inning, as strike 1 called on Neal. Neal 0 for 1 tonight. Walked, grounded out to the third baseman Castillo, and he actually hasn't been up since the 2nd inning, now a 1-1 count. So the 10-run rule, if one of the teams is ahead by at least 10 runs at the end of the 5th inning, the game is over. You do not play the 6th and 7th inning, as Graham slides back safely. Wekiva down by 12, so they need to score 3 runs before Colonial gets 3 outs. Wekiva coming in with a 6-14 record, Colonial 7-12. Colonial slightly better in that record, as the count now 2-1. But both these teams looking to create some momentum in this final week of the season. Of course, next week, the district championship tournaments. And you want to be playing your best heading into those, the equivalent of the postseason. Has the count now 2-2. Neal.
And, of course, some news this year with the FHSAA.
That was a strike, so now the count is...
Yeah, I think that first one was actually a ball. But
full count.
If you didn't follow the news from the fall, the FHSAA adopting a best-of-3 series for regional baseball playoffs, so it will not be single elimination.
There's strike 3 with the freeze, 1 out.
Jimenez records the strikeout, looking to put one away for the Mustangs. Next at the plate for Wekiva. This is number 6, Enrique Polanco. So he's in Sean John's spot in the lineup. I just had to verify what we switched out there.
And Polanco coming in. This is his 17th game he's played in as he looks at strike 1, a 179 batting average with 6 RBIs. So certainly he could help his team out a lot as well as his individual stats. Wekiva needing to score 3 runs to avoid this game ending in 5 innings, the 10-run rule as Jimenez steps off.
So again, as I mentioned a moment ago, something a little bit experimental, a little new. The FHSAA has always used single elimination in all sports, or at least for all team sports, when it comes to the postseason format.
1-1 count now.
And now, for the first time, the FHSAA going to best-of-3 series in the state series games that are coming up, not for the district tournament, but once we get into the regional and beyond, they'll be doing best-of-3 series. And so that's going to obviously lengthen the postseason. That is why baseball is running 1 week ahead of softball in terms of their regular season dates. If that seems a little bit odd to you, why is baseball wrapping up this week and softball still has 1 more week of the regular season? That's the reason, because that best-of-3 series is not yet being implemented in softball. Not to say it wouldn't be in the future, but at least not this year.
And there's strike 3. Stood there like the house on the side of the road. That's John, and that takes Wekiva down to their last out.
Records another strikeout, looking 2 away now for the Mustangs. Next at the plate for Wekiva, number 17, Austin Schwartz. So now the Mustangs down to their last out.
Yeah, so Jimenez off to a rough start in this inning, giving up the single to Graham as there's strike 1. But 2 strikeouts since then, and both of those, they got the freeze on the 3rd strikeout. The batter called on the 3rd strike, and now they need 1 more out. Now that's 1 more strike. As, once again, just to remind you, 10-run rule in effect. If the inning does end with a 10 runs or more, the 5th inning, the game is over. And let's see if it does come to an end. And long throw from the shortstop. Nope, the game is not over. It's an error. That was beaten, made a beautiful play running across his body to catch that ball, but probably would have been better off just holding it.
So both a hit and an error scored on that play, and a single is official for Schwartz, and then he gets second base on the throwing error, and so 2 bases for him. Runner at second, and next at the plate for the Mustangs will be number 3, the catcher, Cody Bowen, following this conference.
And so Bowen, he's 0 for 2 tonight, looking for his first hit. Flew out to Beaton, the shortstop.
And Jimenez is coming off.
And then Beaton grounded out.
So this is the situation we saw for Wekiva the last time you and I were here calling a game, that it got down to the last out, and the coach had to pull the pitcher because of the pitch count. Again, by my stats in the scoreboard, which are admittedly usually a little low because I don't always remember to hit the button for pitches that don't actually affect the count. But I had 29 balls, 23 strikes, that's 52. 2 extra foul balls makes 54, and then several in play. So we're probably looking I only had getting close to 60, but the coach may be looking at that 65 pitch limit in order to only have to rest 3 days instead of 4. So that could be a possibility as well. If we look at Colonial's schedule heading into the last week of the season, obviously facing Wekiva tonight, and then Ocoee is on the road. They've already played their last home game. They're going to be at Freedom tomorrow, and they will be at Boone on Wednesday.
They also have 3 games in a row, too.
Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to wrap up the season. Then they'll get a little rest before their district tournament. In any case, now on the pitcher's mound for Colonial, number 55, Jose Marrero. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that, like, rules are rules and you get it, but at the same time, it's like there's one more out potentially if I'm trying to put myself in Coach Trinidad's shoes.
Yeah, another note, too, since we were talking about postseason championships, the end of the season, Colonial, if you're not aware, they are in Class 7A District 3. Wekiva is in Class 6A District 5. So keep an eye out for those district championships. I don't know who's in them as far as the other teams, as there's ball 1 to Bowen. Again, 0 for 2 tonight. Flew out to Beaton in the first inning, and the third inning grounded out to Beaton. So definitely trying to hit the ball to someone else tonight, as he now looks at a 2-0 count. Runner at third and second. Now, even if a single does come off the bat of Bowen here and both runners score, Wekiva would still need one more run to avoid this game ending, as the count now goes 3-0. Marrero, the third pitcher being used tonight by Colonial. And now the 3-1 count.
Yeah, I can't blame Bowen for that. If you're on a 3-0 count, it's got to be perfect.
A delivery from Marrero, runners at second and third, and now a 3-2 count with 2 outs. So we could see the inning continue, or this could be the end of the game, even if Bowen does not make contact. The delivery, strike 3, there it is. And the side goes down on strikes in the 5th inning. So Wekiva falls to 6-15. Colonial ups the record to 8-12. The tone set in the first inning. 5 runs put across the board by Colonial, all 5 unearned. 2 more unearned in the third, and 8 in the 5th to bring about the 5-run rule. Mark, take us to the finish line.
Takes us to the end of the ball game. 15-3 is your final score, specifically 15 runs on 8 hits with 6 Mustang errors. On the Wekiva side, 3 runs on 4 hits with 2 Grenadier errors. Your final score 15-3. And we'd like to thank everyone for coming out to support your Mustang and Grenadier athletes. Once again, congratulations to our 7 young men celebrating their last week of the regular season here at Mustang Field as they head on to graduation. Again, that Senior night ceremony remains available on YouTube and the NFHS network if you were not able to catch it live earlier in the day. The Mustangs will finish out their season with a home and away series against Ocoee. They are at Ocoee on Wednesday, home against Ocoee on Thursday. And then, of course, for the Grenadiers, they are on the road. They are at Freedom tomorrow, at Boone on Thursday. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Wekiva Sports, and bookmark WekivaMustangs.com for all of your scores, schedules, and more. For those of you who are here in the ballpark, please drive carefully and arrive home safely. Those of you watching online, we hope that you will subscribe before you go, and we will see you next time from Mustang Field.